but it's an accident.
There's nothing left to buy.
There's nothing left to buy. I focus on making as much as possible. I have zero concerns for saving. It's not something that really crosses my mind.
What about reinvesting or investments? Was that something you thought of? I mean, clearly not early on when you're buying the Rolex.
And this is another thing that's interesting, because if you're successful at any business, you end up in the real estate business because you have to put your money somewhere.
Exactly.
So you end up buying a bunch of houses because there's nothing else to buy. You have to. And people, often broke people, will sit and say, oh, if I was rich, I'd just buy a few houses and then I'd have a house here and a house there. And cash flow. Not understanding that those houses need to be maintained and there's property taxes and there's work and your tenant didn't pay rent. You got to turn up with AK-47s and kick him out. And it's headache, it's work. And then it's international. Broke people always say, I'd have a house in Spain and a house in Miami. Oh, I'm sure you would. And what happens when your house in Spain is broken into and you don't visit it for 6 months? And it's full of squatters doing heroin. Like it's work, these investments. So real estate's a headache. And then a lot of other things on paper, which is not even real money, this stocks, bonds, all these garbage things on pieces of paper, they're great if you can find a way to keep hold of them. Because please remember, at any point in time, it's the same with real estate, to be honest, at any point in time, a judge who you've never heard of can stamp a piece of paper and decide that you don't belong, you don't deserve your things you've worked for anymore. They don't belong to you. You can buy a whole bunch of stocks and bonds and real estate, and then you can piss the government off, and then whichever agency can go to a judge and say you're a bad person, and the judge who's never met you, who doesn't give a shit, will stamp an order to confiscate your wealth. And there'll be a new piece of paper that comes to your door and says, this house you paid for ain't yours now. And you'll say, well, what was that then? So you don't even own any of that. Gold is hard to transport, it's heavy.
So what
cash is difficult. You can't really deal with cash anymore. There are some things I've found, but I don't.
Andrew Tate's investing tips.
I have to wait until I'm free from the Matrix attack. If I tell you what I've found, they're going to look for it.
Right.
You have to think outside the box. I mean, but real estate is great, but you have to sit and understand that.
What type of real estate? Can you talk about that you'd invest?
I can talk about this. If you're a man with balls, you're going to piss your government off. And when you piss your government off, they're going to come and take your house. And if you're sitting here saying, no, I'm not going to piss my government off, Andrew, because I'm not going to get famous on the internet and tell them they're all idiots like you do, because I'm a lot more sensible than you. Well, I will say the following, sir. When they come with COVID 2.0 and they tell you to put a mask on and you don't put it on, and you get a fine for not putting on your mask, a $200 fine, and you refuse to pay that $200 fine because you know it's unjust, they will go and put it to a bailiff, and they'll put the fine up, they'll add more money on top, and they'll put a court date on it, and they'll continue to amplify this fine until it's in the thousands and thousands, and you'll refuse to pay it, and then you'll go to court in front of a judge, and you'll explain to the judge why you didn't pay it, and the judge will tell you you should have paid it because it's public health, and it's very important. You'll say, I'm not going to pay this is garbage. I don't have to wear a mask, I'm a full-grown man. And eventually you'll get to a point where they say, fine, we're going to settle this debt you owe us. We're going to take your house. That's what's going to happen. Look at Canada if you don't believe me. Look at the truckers who tried to stand up for freedom. They all lost their houses, lost their pets, had their dogs euthanized. No one talks about it anymore. Everyone just forgot. Oops. So you don't own anything anyway. You don't own the house. You don't own the investments. You don't own anything but your heart and your soul and who you are. You don't own anything but your faith in God. And you own the skills you learn along the way. The best investment you could do if you're a kid and you manage to make $5 million is reinvest in learning how to speak properly, dress properly, train, get a personal trainer, learn how to fight, be strong, be interesting, and then go suffer somewhere. Go to Tibet and live in a monk, go live in with a bunch of monks for 6 months and come back with some stories. That's worth $5 million because it's hard to take from you. Unless they put you in jail, you are now worth money. You are. But for you to buy a $5 million house and go, oh, I've got an investment. Great. You have an investment as long as you shut up. If you shut up and be a pussy, you own an investment. Congratulations. And as the enslavement continues, as it gets worse and worse, the barrier of, or the parameter of what you're going to be allowed to say is going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Right now, we can argue, sit here and make fun of people who say men can get pregnant. Our grandchildren's grandchildren will not be able to argue that point. It'll be an accepted fact that men can get pregnant, and if you argue against it, you're a bigot and you're dangerous, and your QR code on your forehead will be scanned by the facial recognition camera on the corner to let everyone know that it'll come up somewhere on a billboard, bigot, bad person. The AI machine will let everybody know that you're a thought criminal.